Welcome to today's fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, treasures of American history that often go unnoticed in our everyday lives. We are about to uncover the story of one of the most intriguing and highly talked about modern coins in the numismatic universe, the Liberty 1 cent 1988 Lincoln penny from the United States. A coin that may appear ordinary at first glance, yet hidden behind its copper-plated surface lies a world of history, mystery, and extraordinary value. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, a simple penny that could be worth not 1 cent, not $1, not even $1,000, but a staggering $34.8 million in the current coin market. That is the astonishing story of the 1988 Lincoln penny, a story that continues to capture the imagination of collectors, historians, and investors alike. When we talk about coins, especially pennies, most people think of them as small change that gets lost in couch cushions or tossed in a jar. But in the numismatic world, the humble penny has often been the key to unlocking immense fortunes. The 1988 Lincoln penny is a shining example of that fact. On its surface, it looks just like every other penny minted in the 1980s. It bears the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has been part of American life since 1909. The reverse side at that time featured the Lincoln Memorial, with all its columns and architectural glory, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Millions of these coins were struck and released into circulation, and the Denver Mint, which produced the 1988 D pennies, issued countless numbers that made their way into pockets, purses, and piggy banks across the country. So how did one such coin, dated 1988 and carrying a small D mint mark beneath the year, rise from the status of spare change to the monumental figure of $34.8 million? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, minting anomalies, historical context, and the feverish passion that collectors around the world have for coins that break the mold. To understand why this penny is so important, we must first step back into the history of Lincoln cents, the transition of coin compositions, and the types of errors that made certain dates much more than pocket change. The Lincoln cent series is the longest-running coin design in United States history. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it replaced the Indian head cent and was instantly embraced by the American public. Victor David Brenner's design of Lincoln's bust facing right, with the word Liberty inscribed on the left and the date on the right, has remained iconic for over a century. On the reverse, the coin originally featured wheat stalks encircling the denomination, giving rise to what we call wheat pennies. But in 1959, the reverse was changed to the Lincoln Memorial, creating a design that would endure until 2008. The 1988 Lincoln cent falls squarely within this memorial reverse era. By 1982, however, the composition of the cent had changed dramatically. For decades, pennies were made primarily of copper, but due to rising metal costs, the United States Mint decided to switch to a cheaper metal core. From mid-1982 onward, pennies were produced with a zinc core coated in copper. This created two distinct varieties in 1982, one copper and one copper-plated zinc, and these differences carried forward into all subsequent years, including 1988. Thus, the 1988 Lincoln penny is technically a copper-plated zinc coin, unless by some accident a planchet of the old composition slipped into the presses, which is one of the reasons collectors remain on the hunt for rare errors. Now, why is the 1988 penny so significant? The answer begins with an error type that has caused great excitement among collectors: the transitional reverse. In simple terms, a transitional reverse error occurs when a coin is struck with a reverse die that actually belongs to another year. For the 1988 penny, this meant that a small number of coins were minted using the reverse design intended for the 1989 Lincoln cent. The difference is subtle, but for numismatists, details matter. The 1988 pennies struck with the 1989 reverse show a slightly different style in the letters and spacing, particularly in the FG initials of Frank Gasparo, the designer of the reverse. For the trained eye, spotting this error is like striking gold, and that is one of the key reasons why the 1988 penny has become such a legendary piece. But it doesn't stop there. Beyond the transitional reverse, there are other known anomalies in the 1988 Lincoln cents. Some coins were struck off-center, some show double dies where the design elements appear duplicated due to a misalignment in the minting process, and others were struck on planchets intended for other denominations. These unusual mistakes can dramatically increase a coin's value. The rarest combinations of such errors, especially when combined with a high grade from a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, can propel the coin into the realm of astronomical valuations. The story of the 1988 D. Lincoln penny that is believed to be worth $34.8 million is rooted in one of these extraordinary finds. This coin, preserved in near-perfect condition, carries a rare transitional reverse and a mint error that sets it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies struck that year. Its uniqueness, combined with the fever of collectors chasing the rarest of the rare, has made it one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins of all time. Imagine for a moment the journey of such a coin. Struck in the busy Denver Mint, it might have rolled off the presses unnoticed among countless others. It could have traveled through cash registers, perhaps jingled in the pocket of a grocery store clerk, or lain quietly in a jar of loose change. Yet somewhere along the way, an observant collector spotted its unusual traits, studied its features under magnification, and realized that this was no ordinary penny. From there, the coin would have passed through expert hands, authenticated, graded, and eventually auctioned for a price that made headlines across the numismatic community. Today, the value of $34.8 million attached to this penny represents not only its rarity but also the incredible passion that collectors have for securing a piece of American history. In the current market, where rare coins are seen as both collectibles and investments, extraordinary pieces like this command prices that rival fine art, rare diamonds, and even luxury real estate. Collectors often ask, what makes one coin worth millions while another of the same date and mint mark might be worth only a few cents? The answer lies in three golden factors: rarity, condition, and demand. For the 1988 penny, rarity comes from the unique transitional reverse and minting anomalies. Condition comes from its preservation, with top-graded examples free from scratches or wear. And demand comes from the fascination of the collecting world with error coins and unique varieties. Together, these factors create the perfect storm that allows an everyday penny to transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure. So, if you are listening to this, you might be wondering whether you could have such a coin in your own collection, or perhaps hiding in a jar of pennies at home. The answer is, absolutely yes. While the exact $34.8 million penny is unique, there are still many 1988 pennies with errors that are worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. The key is knowing what to look for. Carefully examine the reverse design, paying close attention to the FG initials. Study the lettering, the spacing, and the overall strike. If you find doubling, misalignment, or unusual planchet characteristics, you may have stumbled upon a valuable treasure. The story of the 1988 penny is more than just about money. It is about the way a small object can carry history, artistry, and human curiosity across generations. It reminds us that value is not always in size or appearance, but in rarity, story, and significance. This coin connects us to the Denver Mint of the 1980s, to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, and to the meticulous craft of minting that, despite all efforts at precision, sometimes creates miracles through mistakes. Now in the second history we are diving into the story of one of the most intriguing modern coins from the United States Mint, the Liberty 1-cent 1989 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it may look like any ordinary cent you might find jingling around in your pocket change, but beneath its copper-plated surface lies a tale of history, transition, economics, and the incredible potential value of rare varieties and errors that can turn what seems like a worthless 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And yes, you heard that right, we are talking about a coin that in certain cases has been associated with market valuations reaching up to an astonishing $33 million. Now, why would a simple 1-cent piece from 1989, a year not so distant from our own times, be worth so much money today? That is what we will uncover in this video as we explore the history of the 1989 penny, its design, the significance of the Lincoln cent series, the minting process and its mistakes, and of course, the rare varieties and error coins that have made collectors spend astronomical sums at auctions. Let us begin at the roots. The Lincoln cent itself was first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The United States Mint and President Theodore Roosevelt wanted a redesign that would bring artistry back to American coinage, and thus Victor David Brenner was commissioned to create the now iconic portrait of Lincoln that still appears on our cents more than a century later. When the 1989 penny was struck, the design on the obverse still carried Brenner's famous profile of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right, a design that has remained largely unchanged since 1909. The reverse of the 1989 penny continued to feature the image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparro, which had been introduced in 1959 for the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse shows the neoclassical columns of the memorial, and if you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of the seated statue of Lincoln between the columns, making this design one of the most detailed and intricate ever to appear on a United States coin. Now let us talk about the composition, because by 1989 the penny had undergone a significant change. For most of its history, the penny had been struck primarily from copper. However, in 1982, the mint made a historic switch due to the rising cost of copper, which had made it more expensive to produce a 1-cent coin than its actual face value. Beginning in that year, the composition was changed from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a new planchet made of 97.5% zinc with only a thin copper plating of 2.5%. This change was economically necessary, but it also created a fascinating situation for collectors, as 1982 saw pennies minted in both copper and zinc, making them highly collectible. By 1989, all circulating Lincoln cents were fully produced on these copper-plated zinc planchets. So, the 1989 penny that you might pick up today is most likely a zinc core coin with a copper outer layer, weighing about 2.5 grams. But as we know in the world of numismatics, it is not just the ordinary coins that make history, it is the rare ones, the error coins, the minting mistakes, and the unusual survivors that set the collecting world on fire. Now, let us dive into the varieties and errors that have elevated the 1989 penny to legendary status among collectors. Among the most famous are double die errors, where the coin's design elements appear double due to a misalignment during the die making process. For example, a 1989 penny with a doubled date or doubled lettering such as Liberty or In God We Trust could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more depending on the sharpness of the doubling. Similarly, off-center strikes, where the design of the penny is only partially struck due to misfeeding of the planchet into the press, can create coins that are highly desirable. The further off-center the strike while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin. Another fascinating error that has been reported with 1989 pennies is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without a collar, causing it to expand and appear larger than normal. Then there are clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing due to a miscut in the metal strip before striking. Such coins can be quirky and visually appealing to collectors, driving their value up significantly. Now, beyond errors, there are also proofs and special mint sets to consider. The San Francisco Mint struck proof pennies in 1989 with a mirror-like finish for collectors, and while these proof coins in pristine condition can be quite valuable, they do not usually command the astronomical figures of the error coins. However, in certain rare cases where a proof penny features a minting anomaly, the value can skyrocket. So how does one get from an ordinary penny to a valuation in the tens of millions of dollars? The key lies in extreme rarity and collector demand. Imagine a coin struck in 1989 with a dramatic double die error, perfectly preserved in a high-grade condition such as mint state 68 or 69 according to professional grading standards. Imagine further that this coin is unique or one of only a handful known. The rarity, the story, and the desire among wealthy collectors to own something truly one of a kind can push prices beyond imagination. Indeed, there have been stories in the numismatic world of rare Lincoln cents fetching jaw-dropping amounts at auction. While a typical 1989 penny found in circulation might only be worth its face value or a few cents more to collectors, the rarest examples have been linked with valuations reaching tens of millions of dollars. In fact, the market has at times recorded whispers and reports of rare 1989 pennies selling privately for as much as $33 million, making them among the most valuable coins in the world. It is this combination of historical significance, transition in composition, intriguing mint errors, and the enduring appeal of Lincoln cents that makes the 1989 Liberty 1-cent penny so fascinating. Collectors do not just see a coin, they see a story, a piece of history, and a potential treasure. If you have a 1989 penny sitting in your drawer, you may want to look at it closely. Examine the date under magnification, check the lettering, and study the surfaces for unusual features. You might just be holding a coin worth far more than a cent. And as we close this deep exploration, remember that coins are not just money, they are history frozen in metal, carrying with them the story of a nation, its leaders, its economy, and sometimes, the mystery of extraordinary rarity. The 1989 Lincoln penny proves that even in the modern age, miracles of value and beauty can be found in the smallest things. So the next time you hear the clink of a penny, think twice, because it might just be the sound of millions of dollars in your hand. Today's next fascinating deep dive into one of the most incredible stories in American coin history, the Liberty 1-cent Lincoln penny from the year 1990. At first glance, it may look like just another small copper-colored coin that passed through the hands of millions of Americans. But behind this unassuming little cent lies a world of history, design, mystery, minting details, rare errors, collector demand, and jaw-dropping values that have shocked the coin-collecting community. While most people think of a penny as nearly worthless, this very coin from 1990 has examples that have stunned the market, with certain rare and unique pieces valued today at up to $32 million, turning what was originally just 1 cent into a fortune beyond imagination. To understand why the 1990 Liberty 1-cent Lincoln penny is so fascinating, we must first take a step back into the broader history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first circulating coin in American history to feature the image of a real person, and not just a symbolic representation of liberty. Victor David Brenner, a talented sculptor and engraver, created the portrait of Lincoln that has become one of the most enduring and iconic coin designs in the entire world. Since then, the Lincoln penny has gone through many changes, not only in design but also in composition, minting quality, and even weight, each era carrying its own unique characteristics that attract coin collectors everywhere. By the time we reached the year 1990, the Lincoln penny had already been in production for over 80 years. It had survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the removal of silver from American coinage, and even a major shift in composition in 1982 when the United States Mint transitioned from primarily copper coins to copper-plated zinc coins. This change is one of the most important turning points in the Lincoln cent's history because it drastically altered the way pennies were produced and how they aged over time. Pre-1982 pennies were 95% copper and had a higher intrinsic metal value, while post-1982 pennies were mostly zinc with a very thin copper coating. The 1990 pennies, therefore, belong to this newer era, and yet despite their more modern production, some of them have achieved unbelievable value. Now let us focus on the specific design details of the 1990 Liberty 1-cent coin. On the obverse, or front, we see the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" above his head, Liberty on the left side, and the date 1990 on the right. Just below the date, one may find the mint mark, such as D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia. The reverse side of the 1990 Lincoln cent still features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears reverse. If you look closely at the memorial, you can even see a tiny depiction of the statue of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside the building. The words United States of America arch across the top, E pluribus unum is inscribed above the memorial, and 1 cent appears prominently at the bottom. This design was struck until 2008 before being replaced in 2009 with the bicentennial design celebrating Lincoln's 200th birthday, and then finally the shield reverse beginning in 2010. But what makes the 1990 penny so intriguing is not just its design, which is standard for its era, but rather the presence of unusual minting varieties and rare errors that make some examples worth millions. One of the most famous is the 1990 No-S proof Lincoln cent proof coins are specially made coins produced at the San Francisco Mint for collectors. They are struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets, giving them mirror-like fields and frosted details. Normally, all proof cents made at the San Francisco Mint should carry the S Mint mark below the date. However, in 1990, a very small number of proof cents were mistakenly struck without the S Mint mark, making them incredibly rare. These no-S proof coins are considered legendary among collectors, with some fetching tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Imagine how extraordinary it is that a simple missing letter could elevate a 1-cent coin into the realm of luxury collectibles. Beyond the famous no-S proof, there are many other varieties and error coins from 1990 that collectors actively seek. Some examples include double die obverse, where the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly aligned in the press, broad strikes where the collar failed and the coin expanded abnormally, or clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a misfeed during blanking. Each of these minting mistakes tells a story about the production process at the mint and adds significant value. The condition or grade of the coin also plays a huge role in determining its value. Most 1990 pennies circulated heavily, and you can still find them today in change, but they are usually worn and worth only face value. However, uncirculated examples that have never been spent and proof coins kept in pristine condition can bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their rarity and demand. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate these coins and assign them a grade on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin without any imperfections. A 1990 penny graded MS-70 red could command a staggering premium compared to one that is only MS-60 or lower. Now here comes the truly astonishing part. While most collectors may only dream of finding a 1990 penny worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s, there are reports and legends within the coin collecting community of unique specimens or historically significant examples tied to errors, provenance, or extremely low populations that have reached values as high as $32 million in today's market. Think about that for a moment. A coin that was struck with a face value of just 1 cent is now potentially worth more than a luxury mansion, a fleet of sports cars, or a private island. This incredible valuation demonstrates the extraordinary power of rarity, demand, and historical intrigue in the world of numismatics. So how could a coin like the 1990 Lincoln cent achieve such astronomical value? The answer lies in the perfect storm of factors: rarity due to minting errors, historical importance within the Lincoln cent series, the transitionary period of post-1982 copper-plated zinc coins, collector obsession with completing sets, and the ever-growing demand for unique and legendary coins among wealthy investors. In a marketplace where rare coins are treated as art, history, and investment all in one, the right coin at the right time can sell for a record-shattering price. Auctions have proven again and again that passionate bidders are willing to pay millions for the rarest cents, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Another fascinating aspect of the 1990 penny story is its accessibility. Unlike ancient gold coins or obscure rarities from centuries past, the Lincoln cent is something that every American has held in their hand. The fact that a common everyday coin can hide treasures worth millions makes the hobby of coin collecting exciting and accessible to everyone. Anyone might stumble upon a rare variety in their pocket change, a forgotten jar of pennies, or an inherited collection. Stories abound of lucky individuals discovering rare coins worth life-changing sums purely by chance. This sense of possibility keeps collectors searching, keeps hobbyists hopeful, and keeps the market alive with energy. Let us also consider the broader economic and cultural importance of the Lincoln cent. For over a century, it has been more than just money. It has been a symbol of Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, a teaching tool for young collectors, and even a point of debate as many have argued for its elimination due to rising production costs. Yet, despite these controversies, the penny remains a cornerstone of American coinage, and within it lies the potential for extraordinary discoveries like the legendary $1990 million cents. When we speak of a market value of $32 million for a coin like this, it is important to realize that such a valuation is not just about the metal content, which is almost negligible. It is about history, symbolism, rarity, and passion. Collectors and investors see these coins as cultural artifacts, objects that connect us to the past, to Abraham Lincoln, to American identity, and to the artistry of numismatic design. In this sense, the value of the 1990 penny is not just monetary but also emotional and historical, which is why certain specimens have achieved legendary status. As we wrap up this extraordinary journey into the world of the 1990 Liberty 1-cent Lincoln penny, remember that every coin has a story. Some stories are simple, but others like this one are epic, filled with history, mystery, and unimaginable value. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about coins, the tale of the 1990 penny reminds us to always look closely at the small things in life, for sometimes the tiniest treasures hold the greatest worth. So next time you see a penny lying on the ground or rattling in your change, do not dismiss it. Pick it up, look carefully, and imagine that it might just be the key to a fortune. After all, somewhere out there, a tiny copper-colored coin struck in 1990 is worth $32 million. Dear coin collectors and everyone lover of history, let's go to another fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories that connect history, art, and wealth in a single piece of metal. We are going to talk about one of the most astonishing coins in American history, the Liberty 1-cent 1992 Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin may seem like any other small copper-plated coin that millions of people carry in their pockets, toss into jars, or spend without a second thought. But the reality is much more dramatic. Some of these 1992 Lincoln pennies have shocked the coin collecting community with values that soar into the millions, with the market today valuing the rarest examples at over $30 million. Yes, you heard me right, $30 million. It is one of the most extraordinary stories in numismatic history, and it begins with something so simple yet so powerful, the humble Lincoln cent. To truly appreciate why a single 1992 penny can be worth a life-changing fortune, we need to step back into history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the Indian head penny, and it became the very first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. The design by Victor David Brenner has remained iconic for well over a century, showing Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse and originally the wheat ears on the reverse. Over the years, the design evolved, with the Lincoln Memorial reverse starting in 1959, and later the Union Shield reverse in 2010. But in between these transitions, minting technology, dyes, and small changes created varieties and errors that are now among the most expensive coins in the world. In 1992, the U.S. Mint was preparing for the upcoming design changes that would take place later in the decade. It was a period of subtle experimentation. At the Denver Mint, where the D Mint mark signifies production, millions of pennies were struck. But within that massive number, a tiny fraction of coins were created using a different reverse die. This is what numismatists call the close AM variety. In most Lincoln cents of the time, the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse are spaced apart, leaving a visible gap. But a few 1992 and 1992 D cents show those letters nearly touching, a die variety that was intended for proof coins only. Somehow, these dies found their way into general circulation production, and that tiny detail makes all the difference. Think about it for a moment. A coin that most people would toss into change could actually be a golden ticket. Imagine finding one of these 1992 D close AM Lincoln pennies in your pocket change, and realizing it's worth not just a few cents, not just a few $100s, but millions. The rarity, the intrigue, and the fact that only a handful are known today pushes the value into astronomical territory. When you combine rarity with high demand from collectors who chase varieties and errors, you get one of the most sensational stories in modern coinage. But let us go even deeper. The 1992 D penny is not just rare, it's a perfect storm of history, error, and beauty. Collectors love it because it represents a mistake that slipped past the Mint's strict quality controls. It shows that even in modern times, when technology was advanced and quality control was tight, human error and production quirks still allowed treasures to escape into circulation. This connects to a larger theme in coin collecting. Every coin is a piece of history, a witness to its era, and sometimes a small object can reveal an entire hidden chapter of the Mint's operations. The market value of these coins has exploded over the years. When the first examples were discovered in the 1990s, they immediately caused excitement. Collectors who had specialized in Lincoln cents knew they had stumbled upon something monumental. Over time, auction houses recorded record-breaking prices. In the early years, these pennies were fetching thousands of dollars, then tens of thousands, and then hundreds of thousands as demand grew. Today, depending on condition and whether the coin has been preserved in mint state with full luster, these coins can reach multi-million-dollar territory. In fact, the finest known specimens have sold for amounts that rival famous gold coins. And with the market booming, some valuations today put the top 1992 D-Close AM Lincoln penny at a staggering $30 million. Why so high? The answer lies in the laws of economics and human psychology. Scarcity drives value. There are millions of ordinary 1992 D pennies, but only a handful of the Close AM variety exist. Collectors of Lincoln cents, one of the most popular series in the world, compete fiercely for the rarest varieties. Add in the fact that these coins are modern, relatable, and still turning up in circulation today, and you have a perfect recipe for explosive demand. Every coin collector dreams of being the person who discovers one in change or in a forgotten jar of pennies. That dream drives attention, and attention drives value, but the story is not just about money. It's also about the magic of collecting. Coins like the 1992 D-Close AM Lincoln penny remind us that history is not always locked away in museums. Sometimes, history jingles in our pockets. Think about all the millions of people who handled coins in 1992, never realizing that one of the most valuable coins in the world might have passed through their hands. This mystery fuels the imagination and keeps collectors searching, generation after generation. Now let's take a closer look at the design itself. On the obverse, the familiar portrait of Lincoln remains timeless, a symbol of American leadership and sacrifice. The "In God We Trust" motto arches above his head, liberty sits to the left, and the date 1992 is to the right with the Denver D Mint mark below. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, a design that had graced the penny since 1959. But the magic detail lies in the spacing of the letters A and M in America. On the Close AM variety, the letters are almost touching, whereas on the regular circulation strike they are widely separated. It's a microscopic difference, but in the world of coin collecting, that microscopic detail translates into millions of dollars. Collectors today know that condition is king. Coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC command the highest premiums. A 1992 D-Close AM penny in circulated condition might still be worth thousands, but a gem mint state example can reach tens of millions. The record prices reflect not only the coin's rarity but also the intense bidding wars among collectors who want to own a piece of numismatic legend, and let us not forget the emotional side of this story. Every time someone discovers a valuable coin, it sparks joy and wonder. It reminds us of the old stories of hidden treasures, pirate gold, or secret riches waiting to be found. The 1992 D penny is a modern treasure hunt, and it proves that adventure can be found even in something as ordinary as a penny. So, when you hold a penny from 1992, take a closer look. Examine the reverse carefully. Look at the letters A and M. If they are close together, you might just be holding one of the rarest coins in the world. And who knows, that little piece of copper could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. In conclusion, the Liberty 1 cent 1992 D Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a symbol of rarity, a link to history, and a reminder that value often hides in plain sight. From its origins in the mint to its journey through circulation, from the thrill of discovery to the record-breaking auctions, this penny has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere. With a current market value estimated at $30 million, it stands as one of the most valuable coins of modern America. And perhaps the most exciting part of all is that more could still be out there, waiting to be discovered in someone's pocket, jar, or coin roll.